Welcome to Books on Air, the podcast that tells the story behind the book. It includes insights from authors about how they compose their work, what inspires them, and what they hope you'll take away from their book. Here's your host for this episode of Books on Air, Suzanne Harris.
Welcome to the Books on Air podcast. I'm Sloan Fremont, filling in for Suzanne Harris. This is a podcast where listeners get the secret story behind every book. Joining me today is Rudo Savage, author of the book, The Words of the Lost Soul. This book is about the raw transitioning period from a nearly fatal suicide attempt to finding hope and meaning in life in unexpected ways. It's about addressing societal standards and impacts and its effect on mental health in modern day society. And this book is the sign that it is okay to be a lost soul. Rudo, I want to welcome you to the Books on Air podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here.
So let's start out by telling the audience just a little bit about yourself and what led you to write your book, The Words of the Lost Soul.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Rudo. I'm 31 years old. I'm from a small city in the UK called Lincoln. I have 3 children who are 4, 10 and 11. I'm an orthopedic nurse. I've been nursing for 6 years. I love yoga. I love traveling. Barcelona is probably one of my favorite places. So what actually brought me to writing this book is I feel I've always struggled with my mental health, probably even since my teenage years. It's quite a long-term problem. It was never really properly addressed just because, especially after I became a mother, I didn't feel like it was something that you could say, I'm struggling mentally. I've always been a single mother, so to actually say I'm struggling mentally, I thought would impact me quite badly because I didn't really have a lot of other support. I didn't have a partner, so I just felt like there was a lot of stigma around saying that you're struggling as a parent.
Right.
So yeah, I did. It did kind of come to quite a dramatic build-up. It was quite strange. There was nothing had really triggered it. I think it was just literally a build-up of never kind of dealing with the issues I was facing.
Right.
Which did lead to me nearly losing my life. And it was on the way back from hospital, actually, and it was quite bizarre. I don't like to say a sign, but it kind of was like a sign came to me, just like you need to write the book, not even like you need to start writing a journal or anything like that. It was you need to write the book. I've never written anything before in my life. I've never been an author prior to this. But yeah, I started writing down from the day I left hospital. I started journaling all of my experiences, putting them onto paper, and it formed this wonderful book. So yeah, that's how it kind of came into place.
Yeah. Well, and what you were talking about with mental health, I mean, that is such a problem for, I think, everybody around the world, because like you said, it's something that people are afraid to talk about. It's hard to find resources often that will, that will help people. And also, I mean, having gone through it myself, it's hard to even ask for that help, right? Because you don't know where to go, or you don't know, like you were saying, should I ask for the help, or is somebody going to, think something about me because I needed help?
Yeah. And I like with other illnesses, you can see them, you've broken your leg, you need help. Right. But with mental illness, it's just kind of the experience of the person. It's hard to prove, really. It's just your words, your experiences, your feelings. So I think that's also why it's quite stigmatized as well.
Right. And so what did you learn about that as you went through your journey? What did you learn about the mental health, the process to get help, and then afterwards coming out on the other side? What can you reflect back on and say that you saw, or that maybe could help others that are listening?
Yeah, so I actually feel like it was more detrimental to be quiet about my mental health because it led me to nearly losing my life. Obviously, after that, I had to seek the help, and there was no running from it anymore. And actually, I did have quite a wonderful experience from it. My work were very supportive. My parents were very supportive. My friends were. I did get a lot of support as well with the children. Social services were involved because of the nature of me being a single parent and struggling, but it was more in a way that was supportive as opposed to something that I needed to be scared of, if that makes sense. No, it was quite a wonderful experience. And writing the book and hearing people respond back, you would be surprised how many people feel that way, feel like they're struggling, but feel like they can't say anything. So again, it was quite comforting to know that quite a lot of people do feel that way. And I'd like the purpose of the book to be to let others know that it's okay to feel that way, that they're not alone, that there's no shame in it, and there shouldn't be a stigma in it either.
Right. Yeah. And that what you were saying about the, how you couldn't run from it anymore, right? It had gotten to a point where it had to be addressed, right? Yeah. And that understanding of that you're at that point and that you can't run from it. And this is it, right? This is what I have to face about myself. And the fear of that, like you said, but then being able to have the support, because I think that's something that we feel when we're having this go on inside of us, right? We have these thoughts and we feel so alone, right? We feel we have to do everything ourselves. We feel it's up to us. I can't ask for help. But then it sounds like when you started to, when you were at that point where you were forced to ask for help, I'll say the way with where you were at, and the amount of support that came forward for you, it sounds like that maybe was a little bit of a surprise based on how you had been feeling, with feeling so alone.
I think it's part of the mental illness as well. You think you are the only person that feels that way. Right. You think you're the abnormal person. You're the only one who has these negative feelings. You feel quite isolated. So obviously, the mind is lying to you. Your emotions are lying to you. You're not alone. You're not the only one. But I think it's important to realize that is part of the illness as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, because their mind is essentially playing tricks on us. I mean, to put it very simply, there's way more going on there, but the mind, and we're going to believe everything our mind thinks. And so we think that we're alone. And so we go forward from that perception when, as you said, that's actually not correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so when I read the intro, also, it talked about, your book addresses really all those things that go on in society for, really what the expectations are of us all, right? Like we have this, we grow up wanting to fit in, right? We all want to be doing the same thing. And as we move into adulthood, get married, have kids, have the house, all of this stuff, right? There's these frameworks or these patterns that we might have in our mind that we should be doing, right? And when we're not doing those things, then we can feel like a failure, or we're not doing it right, or all of these other emotions come up. What did you learn on your journey about individualism, and also about how your journey is your own and yours is unique? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously I didn't follow the typical path of getting married, having children. I didn't do it that way at all. I actually had children, and then I got the career, and I still wasn't married. Even now I'm still not married. But yeah, what I learned was that there is no set path for everyone. There's no kind of one size fits all. Because, for example, some people don't even want to have children. They don't want to get married. They might not want to go to university or do those certain things. And for them, that doesn't make them happy. And I think the goal is to do what makes you happy, not what makes us happy, or to go down a path that isn't stigmatized. It's simply to do what makes you happy. Because you can go down this path that society wants you to, but if it doesn't make you happy, then it's just pointless. You're only punishing yourself at the end of the day.
Right. That's a very good point, because when we're chasing these dreams that are really other people's dreams, it's doing nothing for us. And all it's doing is, wasting our own time, but also our own, our own internal spirit dies a little bit along the way, because we're doing something out of alignment with ourselves. Exactly.
That's the good word, alignment. You have always got to do what aligns with yourself. That's so important. Yeah. So important.
So let's go back to the book a little bit. Can you tell us maybe some of your favorite chapters in your book, or a story that was really impactful that you included?
Yeah, sure. So there's two actually. So the first one is my chapter called Vacant. And this is when the psychiatric doctor, this is when I'm still in hospital, he's assessing whether I'm ready to be discharged or not, and he's looking at me quite puzzled, and he's saying, you look very vacant, like he can't work out what my mind is thinking, what I'm thinking or feeling. And then it kind of delves into my mind and the actual chaos that is going on inside of my mind. So he's looking at me thinking, you look vacant, but actually inside of my mind I've got all these thoughts and feelings, and the chapter's really good at kind of explaining that, how from the outside it is quite hard to perceive mental health, but on the inside it's a completely different world and story. So I quite like that chapter. And then I've got the London chapter as well. It's quite a nice chapter towards the end of the book. And it just shows quite a difference from the start of the book to the end of the book, where I am more healed. I'm enjoying myself. I'm starting to enjoy life again. And that's quite a nice chapter as well, where you can just see such changes from the start to the finish. So I really enjoy that chapter as well.
Yeah. And what was the writing process like for you? I know you mentioned you wrote this pretty much immediately as you got out of the hospital. What was the process to write about your story like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite difficult. It's quite strange, actually. It was a release, but addressing your demons and healing is quite a difficult process. So a day after I left hospital, it was, I did have quite a routine, actually. I would kind of wake up. I didn't really eat when I was quite unwell. So I'd wake up, I'd try and eat breakfast, but I couldn't really, and I'd do some writing. And then I go and cry, and then I come back and do some writing. And it's quite strange that each of the early days were like that. But like I was saying, towards the end of the book, when you see the more brighter chapters, it is amazing to see the healing process. But yeah, I mean, it was difficult at first. But yeah, the writing was a release for me to kind of get the feelings out there onto paper. But the healing process it's not easy. It's lengthy, and yeah, it's not a linear process at all.
Right. Yeah. Well, and yes, that's exactly right. It's not linear. We expect it to be maybe sometimes that it should just be, I start here and I end here and I'm fine. Right. But that's not, we have emotions involved that we have to pay attention to. And even as you were talking about that, getting up, writing, crying, having this routine of that. I know, when I went through my own journey with my own mental health, it feels like it's going to last forever.
Gosh, yeah.
You feels like you're in it and you're never going to leave. Can you maybe give some advice to someone who might be in that state right now about that?
Yeah, of course. I think that even if you don't feel it, you have to make your mind strong to believe that it is temporary. Pain is temporary. What I did as well, I would kind of think back to other painful experiences I might have had in life prior to that event, and I would say, well, that pain was temporary. At the time, I thought it wouldn't end, and it did. And it's the same for any pain we have in life. At the time, we might not feel like it's going to end, but it will do. It absolutely will do. It's just about making the mind stronger than your feelings. So always train your mind to believe that the pain will end. Train your mind to be positive at all times, regardless of what you're feeling, and you will get there. So it's not easy. I'm not at all saying it's easy. To think positive and it'll be fine. It's not easy at all, but all pain is temporary in life. Even the most horrific pains we think we can't get through, they're temporary.
Yeah. Well, and I also hear with your story that you have the dedication to yourself, right? You had the dedication to get up every day, write what you were going through, experience the emotions, because for anybody who's been sad, there also becomes a point where you're tired of being sad, right? You're just tired of crying. Like you just want at least some other emotion to be available to you.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing in your story too, is that dedication to yourself to get up and go through it, right? Because we can't go around it. We want to maybe, but that doesn't work. That never works. So that dedication you had to yourself to go through it and your willingness sounds like, that's to me, a big part of being able to move out of that pain that feels like you're there forever onto something new.
That's it. Yeah. I think that the thing is with change, you can't force it can't force it to happen. You have to be ready for it to happen. Yeah. And for a lot of people, that's when they really do reach the lowest point. But you have to be willing to change for yourself first above anyone else. When people say, I want to change for my family or friends. Yeah. Have to want to change for yourself, otherwise it's always going to fail. You're always going to relapse. So you always have to be ready to make that change and be ready to make that change for yourself. And that's when you see progress and things start to change around you as well.
Yeah, because if you're doing it for someone else, it's the same as living the life for someone else, right? You're following something, it's for you. It's got to be internal for you. That's the most important. Yeah, for sure. What surprised you the most about your book?
I think actually I was quite proud at how well I wrote it actually. It was kind of like learning a skill that I never knew I had, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously the feedback that I received was amazing. It wasn't simply,